speaker, Tom Faber, with your questions. Well, we will get started with a 45-minute presentation followed by a 15-minute Q&A. So please keep yourself muted and type any questions that you may have in the chat box. We will do our best to answer every question before the end of our session. Thank you so much for being here today. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Tom.
Thank you, Kelsey. So this is pretty exciting, actually. It's not the first time for me to be at People in Need, but it's the first time for me to, I guess, not be there and be there. But we are from sunny Woodstock, and Natalie is joining me. Natalie Wilson works with McHenry County Workforce, and you're going to be hearing from her a little bit later on. So I want to share with you a couple of things. First of all, McHenry County Workforce, we're going to be talking about employment because right now during the pandemic, high unemployment, careers, things are changing. And so we're living in a world right now, employment-wise, that is very different, like everything else. And we've kind of been forced and pushed into the future here with many things like people in need on virtually, but job search and looking for jobs and what type of jobs is changing also. So we're going to talk a lot about that and the process and resources for helping you get back to work or find another career or find another job. I will say that with what's going on, there's a lot of people that have experienced difficulties with IDES. We being McHenry County Workforce is not IDES. So unfortunately, I cannot help you or answer any questions regarding your unemployment claims or fraud or any of those issues, but I wish you well with that. What McHenry County Workforce is a department of McHenry County. McHenry County receives federal funds for training for job seekers and workers, employers. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how you may be able to take advantage of that as well. So that's who we are. I am Business Service with McHenry County Workforce. Natalie is a career planner. And Natalie, let's find out, I'd like to find out who in the audience, who we have. So as we go through the presentation, I might be able to address some of those things differently. You want to put up our poll for us?
Yeah, sure. We'll start off with the first one. I'll go ahead and launch it right now.
Okay, if we take 15 seconds here and you can answer where you are. This is anonymous. We have no idea who's answering what. The other thing is, you might not be your situation, but maybe you're here attending for someone else, friend, family, clients that you work for. Are you working with people that are unemployed or employed?
Okay. So I'll go ahead and end that and share the results right now.
Okay. So what we have here, looks like 100% are employed. But for those that are unemployed, it looks like some are 6 months or more. All right.
Kelsey also mentioned that if they're viewing this presentation through the Whova app, they may not be able to participate in the Zoom polls.
Okay.
So that explains a little bit of who, that's why we're getting not the most consistent feedback, but.
Yeah, okay, that explains. Well, let's try the other poll anyway, because this will help us if we get some information.
Did you want to go into the video, or do you want to just do the other poll?
Just the other poll.
Okay. Let me go ahead and do this. So do you have any obstacles or barriers to employment, language, age, transportation, childcare, ex-offender, disability? You're able to select more than one if more than one apply for those who are viewing this through Zoom and able to participate in the poll.
So what we can do is, for those of you that might not be able to participate in the poll, if you type in the chat that you're interested in information regarding age, getting back to work with a language barrier or ex-offender, you can put that in the chat box. So with limited here, it looks like we do have a couple people that have age obstacles, which we want to talk about. Disability, we do want to talk about. Transportation is pretty common. All right, so that helps. All right, so Natalie, before we go to the video, I want to talk about for those people that are unemployed and you're looking for a job right now, it's always a good opportunity, looking at this as an opportunity to think as far as transitioning into something that might be a better fit, and not just a different job, but maybe a career. We've worked with a number of job seekers that come in and they need a job because they've lost theirs or they've been unemployed, but the thing that they may not take advantage of is that they have time to think about career change, that maybe if they've been working for 10 years, 15, 20 years in one field, that maybe there's something different that they would excel at or do better at. They have the skills to transfer those into a different career. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show a short video as an example of one job seeker that we had a few years ago that went through that same process. Okay, Natalie?
Okay, I will go ahead and share that video. 1 second.
Hi, I'm George Flowers. I'm an information technology. Years ago, it didn't start out that way for me. I was in the printing world for quite a few years. I started in printing when I was 22 years old, and I worked there for 32 years. My company eventually got bought by another company, and everything was closed in this area, so I was put out of work. After a short time of being out of work, I was very fortunate enough to get a letter from McHenry County Workforce Network that said I may qualify for retraining. After pursuing all of that, I ended up going back to school and getting a degree in IT at McHenry County College. I had to do all the research to decide which school I should go to and which degree I should pick and all of that, and I had to justify the degree to the point where I would have a job waiting for me when I finished my degree. And it was real easy to do with information technology because that was big at the time when I started the 2-year process. I could show 95% chance that I'd be able to step out of school and get a job. I took that opportunity and went to McHenry County College, and I went I worked pretty hard for it. I ended up with a 4.0 GPA, so I worked pretty hard for it over that 2-year period. And then when I got out of school, I just couldn't find anything. I sent application after application out, and there was just nothing available. Tom set me up with this opportunity here to intern here at Jewel Technologies, and that was probably one of the best things that's happened to me in my life. I love it here. It's a great little company to work for. I feel very, very needed. There's always something for me to be doing. It's just been wonderful. And after my intern period, then Don offered me a position here permanently. So I took it, and I'm happy.
Oh, we don't have to share the credits.
Go ahead and stop sharing.
Yeah. So I love that video, and that this was back actually during the Great Recession, and there were a lot of people that were out of work, as those of you can remember. But it offered those people who, because a long period of time, to change careers and get into something that they wanted to do, and do something that they could excel at. Like I said before, this is really, I think, an important thing for people to think about and take advantage of that opportunity, because we have heard later, like George, many people come back and later express that they had, this was the best thing that ever happened to them as far as losing their job. And the training they go into could be short-term. MCC is local and provides a lot of training for our job seekers. So as you are job searching, think about career as well. And we have career planners here that can help with that. So the next thing that I want to talk a little bit about are the obstacles. So with COVID and the pandemic, that in itself is an obstacle for many people. The job seekers that we have coming in now, some of them are long-term unemployed, and that is defined as 26 weeks or longer by definition. And there's different strategies that you have to use to get back to work for being long-term unemployed, and especially now during the pandemic. The other barrier or obstacle right now is very common age. And we found that there are a lot of people that are over 55, over 65, where you think that they would be retired because of things that happened during the recession. One, have found themselves needing to work. There's a lot of people that are over 65 that just need to work because they need to keep busy, and they need to keep producing and want to contribute. And then a statistic that I had seen recently regarding age in the workforce to keep in mind is that 70-year-olds, there's 18% of them right now are working, people that are 70 and older. So there are a lot of people that need to work, and so we have to take a look at how do we strategize and how do we address that. For those that I encourage those people that are that might be older, that companies are not supposed to discriminate, but they may take that into consideration. They may think that people are not don't have the technology to skills to do the job, or they've been out of school for too long to know how to learn how to do new things. One of the things that probably should consider is to get into some training, one to update your skills, but then also to show those employers that you can learn, you do learn, you are a learner. There are a lot of great short-term certificates that MCC provides that we could help with funding. But that is one thing that an employer might look at as a benefit to bring somebody in. For those that, let's see, what were our other obstacles? We have had an initiative for the last couple of years to bring talent back to the workplace in terms of ex-offenders. And this was a combined effort with MCC, State Line SHRM, the workforce, the county board member, the courts, a lot of the nonprofits that came together to provide resources to get individuals that have a criminal background ready to get back to work. And if you consider that pre-pandemic, and even now, we have a lot of employers that are looking for people, looking for talent, and they may not have always considered that population as a source of skilled workers. So getting those people prepared and ready to get back to work was something that would benefit our county and our community and our businesses. So Natalie, if you would, we did a workshop for employers, but we also did a series of workshops and continue to do workshops for job seekers. Natalie, if you would put up that, share the workshop
flyer. Yeah.
Flyer, yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that process. So considering that in the United States, there are 70 million people, in very round numbers, 70 million people that are ex-offenders that have a criminal background. And now those are figures that come from the FBI that have been reported to the FBI. So that's a lot of people to eliminate for consideration. Even that may be a barrier, but if they're better prepared, that would help them get back to work. Now, I'm sharing the screen that it does talk about people with felonies and the workshops about people with felonies, but this is really basically the process that any unemployed person should go through in their job search or forming their employment goal. The very first thing is to figure out what your strengths are, to think bigger about what you can do. And this goes back to looking at what career do I want? What's a good career fit for me? But thinking bigger in terms of what can I do, not just what I've always done. Thinking bigger in terms of knowing what your strengths are, identifying those strengths. And that's probably the number one thing you need to do as a job seeker is to identify those strengths, not just to identify a career and a position, but to convey that in your resume and your interview. So this is a process that everyone needs to go through. When we are working with people with a felony barrier, there are certain careers that are better, but anyone that is job seeking should be looking for the career that is the best fit for them. That's different than a job. Decide what career you want and then what job that you would find in that career. The next step that we have to take a look at is then interviewing for those careers, the resume. We could spend an hour just on resumes and interviews in general. But the resumes, one thing to keep in mind with a resume, that there is not one way to do a resume. There's a lot of different ways to do that. But the one thing that you should keep in mind is, especially now during this pandemic, is companies looking for specific skills, that look at the job description and make sure that those things that you can do on the job description are on the resume. We have workshops that are no cost that'll help take you through that, as well as mock interviewing. The nice thing about Zoom is that you can get on and practice interviewing and watch yourself record, and practice is always something that is going to be a benefit. And then we have to talk about the process here as you go through job searching and you get that job, is how am I going to advance, or how will I keep that job? And then the last thing is, if you're job searching, to have a plan, and we're going to talk a little bit more in a minute here about a plan and goals. Set some specific SMART goals and have a plan for what you're going to do next. Okay, so I think we have, Natalie, we could take that down. And what do we have for our next poll?
So the next poll is if they have a plan, a job searching plan. So I'll go ahead and launch that for those that are on Zoom and able to participate. If not, you can go ahead and type in either the Whova chat or the Zoom chat your answer. All right, a few more seconds. All right, so I'm going to share the results, and it looks like a majority of people do not have a job search plan, Tom.
Okay. All right, so that's not uncommon, because as we work with job seekers, we find that most, and it's rare that they would have one, most do not. The plan usually consists of going on the internet, which is a great source for finding jobs, and just staying on the internet and looking for jobs. That's something you need to do, but that is probably the least effective way to spend your time. So let's talk a little bit about things that you should be doing or should consider doing, and how to put together a plan for your job search. And this could be for anybody. Natalie, if we show that worksheet.
Yeah, I will go ahead and share that. And then I can zoom in for everybody to see as well.
So this worksheet is something that you use with job seekers to get them thinking. Was developed a lot of this was developed with Richard Bull's The Color of My Parachute. What the color is your parachute, I think is, he wrote a job survival book during the Great Recession. What he did was to outline some different methods or things to do while you're job searching. Some of these have changed over the year or the 10 years as far as the effectiveness. I can't see do we have that worksheet up yet? Yeah, we'll take down the poll. Or do I have to? Okay, I had to. All right. So the worksheet here, if you just concentrate here on the list to the left here, completing a self-inventory, Richard Bohl said that this is the most important, most effective way to find a job. And what that is, and it's most time consuming, is you need to sit and figure out what are your values, what are your strengths, doing that self-inventory and knowing who you are and how you match up with a company. I'm not going to go through every one of these because I want to spend a little bit more time on that third one, is volunteering. A lot of people will, you put that out there, they will say, well, I need a job and volunteering doesn't pay. And that is true. The volunteering doesn't pay in terms of dollars. And I understand that you need a job. But volunteering can be one of, also, it's because it's high on the list, is one of the most effective ways to help get back to work. And what, especially for those of you that were mentioned that long-term unemployed, and sometimes long-term unemployed, and the effects can be 2 weeks. We've had people that come in here and been unemployed for 2 weeks and starting to feel the stress and the effects of that. But the volunteering gives you a place to go. It gives you some responsibility. It gives the job seeker a chance to use their skills or develop new skills. It was extremely important for that job seeker to feel like they're contributing, they're a contributor again. So when they go to the interview, that you have that sense about you. Networking, that is extremely important and extremely important at this time during the pandemic. You do have to know somebody, and it helps to know someone. The networking by volunteering will assist you and benefit you in that way. During the recession, visiting employers in person was not really really very effective because there just were no jobs. However, now there are jobs. The visiting employer piece is just safety-wise. There are companies that just don't feel safe letting other people come in. So that can be difficult, but the cold calling, if you can do that somehow with a call, connecting some way, that could be really effective. Job fairs, a lot of those are now virtual, and if you attend one of those, the thing to best keep in mind is know something about the company that you're visiting. The same thing with the interview. When you go to the interview, there's no excuse with the internet not to know something about the company. That's very important. The worst thing you could do in a job fair is to go to a company and tell them what you need and ask them what they have, or ask them about what they do. You want to show them that you've been able to do some research, you are interested. So there are a few more things here. Occupational training, I want to mention that before we move on. That is what we were talking about at the beginning, that, and Natalie's going to go into a little bit here with the next set of slides, but occupational training can be a way to get your foot in the door. It could be a way to show employers that you can learn and increase your skills. The way we've been forced into the future here has required people to learn how to do things that we never did before. I've had to learn how to get on Zoom that I never did before. So Those are all good things, but you have to show the employer that you're able and capable of doing that. So how can some resources, before we go to questions, resources that you might have available to you for job search or for training? Natalie, if you want to pull up your slides and you can go through those.
Okay, so we're just going to go through and kind of talk about what we do here necessarily at the workforce. So we're from McHenry County Workforce, and we're located 500 Russell Court, right next to the courthouse in Woodstock. Just a little bit about us, our phone number, our website, McHenryCountyWorkforce.com. There's a bunch of helpful resources on there. Every month we post our monthly brochure, which is free workshops for job seekers, anywhere from LinkedIn critiques, computer classes, resume and cover letter, mock interview, a bunch of different things that people are able to register for. We currently are open to the public Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4 by appointment only, just so we can monitor how many people come in. So if you'd like to make an appointment to come into our office, we have a resource room with computers that people can use to print resumes or job search or whatever it may be. You would just give us a call at our phone number to make an appointment. So a little bit about who do we serve. So all residents of McHenry County, if you're employed or unemployed, veterans are top priority for our program. Serve a lot of ex-offender population, people with disabilities, mature workers over the age of 55. And then we also do have a youth program that we offer for in-school or out-of-school youth. We offer like a GED program through McHenry County College, and a bunch of different other services as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the main purpose of what we do here. So it's called WIOA. It stands for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And what it is we are federally funded to help people obtain sustainable employment, whether that's through occupational classroom training, maybe they need a certificate, or if we also have business services, which is what part of. We could provide on-the-job training or work experience, which is kind of an internship to help you get your foot in the door. So some of our resources, like I was saying, that our career services is what they call. These are free to everybody to attend. So we have one-on-one resume critiques, mock interviews. Bruce Bennett runs all of our LinkedIn classes. He does a great job. Like I was saying, computer classes, our resource room. Pre-COVID, we would have on-site hiring events where companies would come in and you would be able to do an on-spot interview. Hopefully, when all of this subsides, we'll be able to go back to do that. We have a bunch of different career guidance and planning resources in our office, anywhere from brochures to books to help you with your next step. A bunch of different labor market information, kind of just saying what's available out in McHenry County in terms of jobs wise. And then obviously staff to assist with your needs, such as our resource room staff and then career planners like myself. So these are some of our career resources available through WIOA. So we're able to provide training if you're approved for our the WIOA grant. So we kind of have a few different occupation industries that we typically provide for. So they're healthcare, professional services, IT careers, manufacturing, which is huge in McHenry County, and then transportation, distribution, and logistics. So some of our training services, like I was saying, is through the WIOA program. So if interested to go back to school or see if you're eligible for career or occupational training or work-based training through our business services, WIOA is a grant that you wouldn't have to pay back if you're eligible. I know I can't really, you can't click on the links, but I'll be sure to put them in the chat so you guys have availability to look at them. We work with a variety of different training providers. They don't have to necessarily be in McHenry County, pretty much statewide, just depending on how far you're willing to travel. And then we can provide up to $7,000 for non-medical related training and $10,000 for medical related training. And then Tom, did you want to talk a little bit about business services?
Yeah, so the money that we get from the funding, typically we've been talking about is for classroom training, where truck driving would be a truck driving school, could be MCC. But the other funds that we can use for training, work-based training, would be internships, where the county is the employer and pays the wages. This is a win-win situation for the job seeker and the employer. The employer gets a worker to come in and take on a project temporarily, work for 3 months or longer, and the worker gets back to work, has some cash flow, gets some experience, current on the resume, and although there's no obligation to hire or accept the position with the company, the benefit there is just getting back to work, getting in the door. But some companies do hire their interns. Something a little bit more long-term and permanent would be on-the-job training, which is where we use our funds to reimburse the employer for a new hire. They hire someone that doesn't have all the skills, and they can train the skills. Right now, employers are focused on people that are cultural fit, have the same values, good work ethic, may not have all the skills. We can teach skills. So we use our funds then to help that job seeker, the candidate, get the skills while they're working at the company. Apprenticeships, MCC offers great apprenticeship opportunities. A lot of companies will offer those to their employees. We can help fund that one part of that or the other. Apprenticeships are basically made up of on-the-job training plus classroom training. We might be able to fund one or other. This one, for those of you that are attending that are employers, and there are some service providers here, that your employees might benefit from the incumbent worker training, or some of those job seekers, when you get back to work, you need more training after you've started. We have funds then to provide some training for the incumbent or current workers. So that's just very briefly what the work-based training is. Thanks, Natalie.
So the next, how to get started pretty much is just visiting our website. There's a bunch of different resources, McHenryCountyWorkforce.com. We have a calendar of events that you could click on to register, and I'll be sure to put all of these in the links in the chat for everybody. And then if you're interested in applying for the WIOA grant, on our website, there's specific tab that says WIOA training process and then WIOA application. And the nice thing about that, you just fill it in fill it out online and then hit submit, and then it gets straight and put it into my inbox, and I process it for eligibility, since I do the eligibility for this program as well. And then if you are approved for training, you would be working with a career planner one-on-one to help you kind of with your transition, whether it's going to be through work our business services or if you're interested in attending training. So that is a little bit about our services and what we offer here.
So before we go to some questions here, I would just go back to where you are right now. Anyone that is a job seeker, unemployed or underemployed, I will say that it can be a very stressful time, and it's pretty hard to navigate that by yourself. I started my career as a teacher. My training for what I do now, working with job seekers, the best training that I got was during the recession, where I was out of work for a year and a half. And I know personally how difficult that can be, and how difficult it can be to come up with a plan of what to do. And so just knowing that there are resources there because it's so difficult to do for a person by themselves, I think is important. The other thing is to have a plan, and have a plan that you can share with a career planner and someone that can help you with that, through that. I did see that there were some people that were service providers that I mentioned. I would encourage those of you that are service providers or providing for other people that might be unemployed or unemployed to make an appointment to come into the workforce center to get a little bit more information and eyes on what it is that you're referring your clients to. And we've done this in the past. It helps with coordinating services, and we'd be happy to do that. So we're pretty close to, I think, a time where we can talk about some things that we left out. Any questions, we're going to type in the chat.
So I am monitoring the chat, and one of the questions, will these resources be available then? Yes, I will be sure to type them in the chat as the next couple of minutes. And then another question, do you have sessions or programs for underemployment, Tom?
Yeah, so if you're employed, which right now many people are, and they're underemployed, eligibility, so that we can spend the funds, with the exception of incumbent workers, but we can spend the funds on the training for eligible candidates. You'd have to fill out the application, which can be done online. If you were, obviously, if you're dislocated or laid off, you're not working now, that's almost automatic. But as far as underemployed, it depends on what your income is. We look back 6 months, and Natalie does the eligibility. You want to talk just a second about that?
Yeah, sure. So to get eligible for the WIOA program, there's a few different ways. So one, if you're a dislocated worker, meaning you've been laid off from your job and you're currently receiving unemployment insurance, you would be eligible. We partner with IDES, so this is an approved training program. And then our other population that we work with is if you're on any public assistance, if you're on food stamps, TANF, have any barriers to employment, veteran, or we can take a look back at your past 6 months income to see if you would be eligible. So eligibility, there's a bunch of different ways to get eligible for our program, which is great for everybody. So it's not just a cookie cutter for eligibility.
Thanks, Natalie. Hopefully that answered that question. Any other questions?
Hey, Tom, here's
Yeah.
another question that came through. Oh, sorry, Natalie, I didn't mean to step on your toes there. Somebody was asking how candidates can stand out from other people who interview.
That's a good question. The first one is I think that making sure that if you already got the interview, but to get the interview on your resume, make sure that you're connected with the skills and requirements that the company has posted on their job description. Once you get in the interview, I think you have to, one way to stand out from others is to not making the mistakes like showing up late, how you show up. Those can automatically separate you from others because not everyone does that. In the interview, you can make sure that you are able to tell some stories briefly about situations that you've had to either overcome or demonstrate success, but to have some demonstrable stories to share. Asking questions, not about what the company does, but asking questions that will show that you've done some research on the company, that you know what their stated values are, you know something about the company. That will set you apart from a lot of job seekers. And then ask questions related to what your interest might be in the company. That help? Natalie, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to address the question that Kelsey addressed. So I am putting the links for our website and the Rio application in the Zoom chat, as well as the chat on Whova. And I also did start in the community, I started a discussion topic about our resources, and I'm putting the links in there as well.
You know, one of the things I'll mention if we get any other questions, but one of the things that we've been able to do with the funding, and I mentioned the internships, is that the connections we have with employers in the county to be able to get people temporarily into a work experience has been a benefit, not just for the cash flow, but for changing their view about themselves and how they feel about themselves. It makes a big difference when they continue to job search, that they go into that interview, and maybe we're going back to the last question, to separate yourself is that they feel more confident about themselves when they're working, and that goes back to the volunteering as well, that employers can see that when you are out of work for a long time, you kind of lose a lot of confidence in yourself. Somebody had mentioned, mentioned LinkedIn. That's an important thing, that you should have a presence on LinkedIn, again, for networking. Looking for.
Do you have any other questions for our presenters today? All right, well, if not, I'm going to say any other things that you would like to share, Tom or Natalie, before we finish up today?
Yeah, Natalie, can you put up your contact information from that last slide? Would that be easy enough to do?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and type my contact information in the chat. If anyone has questions about any of the services or programs or anything that we offer, go ahead and reach out to me. So I'll go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah, and you can contact me through, or Natalie, if you want to put mine on there, I can type mine in there. Especially if you are an employer, those of you that are service providers, if you would like more information on how we could help pay for training your staff, covering the cost of training to bring in more skills to your staff, you can contact me about that. If not, then thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, everybody, for attending this session, and a special thank you to Tom Faber and Natalie Wilson. We're so grateful for your expertise. If we were unable to answer your question, or perhaps you just didn't want to share it in the chat, that's okay. You can message Tom or Natalie. They're putting their information in the chat boxes right now, and you can also message them through the HOOPA system if you prefer, and they can answer your questions that way. In addition, all exhibitor booths and community boards are open until noon. So we've got a little bit of time, and I encourage you to join the closing session beginning at 11:30 as well. Please make sure that you stop by those places to find any additional resources that you may be looking for, and you can find our evaluation on the PIN home screen. We greatly appreciate any feedback that you'd like to offer us. So thank you very much to our speakers, and thanks to everybody for attending today.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Yes, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.